Alright, so after we got the trigger wheel in, we had a lot of issues with it trying to run. And this is one of those things where like trial and error happens, right? So we were trying to get it to run and it wouldn't run, backfiring out the intake manifold, and we were doing, the normal things. If it's backfiring out the intake manifold, we know it's 180 degrees out, so I changed it in the software and still would not get it to run. And this is what I kind of anticipated. Look at these spark plugs. So when I tell people when you're building a base map, and if you watch some of my other videos talking about base maps and stuff like that, I always tell people to try to get the car started and use cheap plugs, like good cheap plugs. I'm not saying like use like a set of AC Delcos or anything like that, which I'm sure is fine. I've always just used NGKs because even like the cheap ones are only $4 a piece. So what we're doing today is we're going to put fresh plugs in it. And then we are going to actually rotate the motor to top dead center and set the distributor correctly. And then that should help us really dial it in. All right, so excuse the mess as usual, but I wanted to go over a couple things here. If you look down there, you can see that white mark on the crank pulley there. That's like basically the far leftmost mark there. And then you've got the pointer right there on the cover, and you see it's lined up. That's top dead center. So on this, this is kind of how the distributor is going to sit. So if you look here, you'll see that the rotor is facing this gap here on the, you see that gap right there? So that's kind of how we're having it set. So the reason why this is important is because that we have the trigger wheel, and whenever we make the settings for the base map, it's going to be based in this position. So as you can see, the sensor is 180 degrees out from the notch on the distributor housing. So just remember that. The thing is that if this is off slightly, our base map is not going to work. So the base map you do have to do some fiddling with, and that'll be in our instructions. But that's kind of where this is at right here. You have to at least get this somewhat close. To add to one level of complexity on the distributor setup, I'm going to show you on the 123 because this bracket is the same. So this wheel or this slit here goes into the drive, and it actually only goes in one way. If you can actually force it in one way, but there's only one way it'll go smooth, at least in my experience anyways. So one other level of complexity is that this bracket right here. If you loosen this Allen here, you can rotate this freely. So you basically will have to do two adjustments. You'll actually have to get the distributor in, but then also get this bracket in the correct spot. And here's the 10 that secures it. So even on my own car, I had to essentially loosen this, slide it off, and then move the whole distributor around to get it to where it needs to be. So just keep that in mind. These, unfortunately, there's no way of like presetting this, if you will, but it's a relatively easy thing to do. It's just kind of a pain to, it's just kind of a hassle. It's not really a pain. But yeah, so basically, distributor shaft only will go in one way easily, and then you'll have to basically take this bracket off, but leave it on, just slide it off, make some adjustments, and then you need to just kind of get the rotor where the opening in the distributor housing is on the JT68 distributor. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense there. Okay, so where we're at on mine is I broke all the spark plug wires, every last one of them. Yep, so I have a new set coming in for reference for anyone who needs to know. Order for a 1982 Datsun 210, any engine, it's the same wires. So we're gonna order that. As you see in the last couple of videos, this is my bracket. This isn't going to be the finished piece. This is just something that Jeremiah, our fabricator, whipped together real quick for me, just so I can get this going. And then today we are going to put the hardware in for the cable and then all that, and then get that all secured. All right, so we're gonna go back to the drawing board on this. So I've got this extension rod like almost maxed out. So let me show you. That's full throttle right there. Now for those geniuses out there, which is not me, you'll probably already see what the problem is. The problem is that, let me show you. So I'm going to actuate the throttle, and that's all we get, which is a far cry from that. So we're gonna have to redesign this, back to the drawing board, not a big deal. We probably will go with our original plan, which was to kind of build a bracket down here to hold the cable closer, but so that's that. However, that does at least allow me to modulate the throttle a little bit, but it's not obviously the range that we want, but something is better than nothing. So, but yep, that's about it. So Monday we will get our new spark plug wires, and then we will test our ignition system again. We'll get all that going over there, and then we can worry about this later. But progress is progress. It may be slow, but at least something is something.